Here's a fun hypothetical for you. Let's say that tomorrow, somehow I acquire $1 trillion. And with that $1 trillion, I go to every single video game company, whether it's a development studio or a publisher, and I buy the exclusive rights to every IP that has ever existed. And with all of my IP that I own and my infinite wealth and power, I say, none of you can use this ever again. All video game companies have to start over from step one, make new characters, make new worlds, make new franchises. You can think of it as the IP apocalypse. If that happened, which development studios and publishers would be most affected by it? Like which ones would fail and which studios and publishers wouldn't be affected at all because they're so creative and everything that they put out relies much more on the experience that you have and the gameplay mechanics rather than just kind of reskinning the same thing over and over again. I've got a few names on both the hypothetical success stories and failures, and I'll read off mine, but you guys tell me what you think yours are. Starting off with the studios that I think would be unaffected or would still find success, I think Rockstar is in there for sure. You know, Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead, people know the names of those franchises, but it's really just living life in a time period. You could take that away and that would be fine. I think Rockstar could take their gameplay formula and put it into any setting, any time period, and they would knock it out of the park because they're really good at what they do. Up next, I've got Valve and Riot. I think they do a fantastic job of creating esports, and you can reskin that whole thing with new IP and it wouldn't matter because they're good at what they do. Once again, Valve can also do some pretty freaking awesome single player titles, so I think they'd be fine. And the last hypothetical success story I've got here is From Software. I don't think they would be affected at all. If you look at Sekiro, you look at Elden Ring, there's inspiration from previous titles that helped make those two games great, but it's new IP, so they'd be fine. On the failure side of things, I've gone back and forth on this first publisher / developer because they make high quality games for the audience that they make those games for, but they also kind of rely pretty heavily on just the same characters over and over and over again. And I wonder, would their core audience and consumer base still buy titles in the future if they didn't have that certain mascot on the front to just tell them, hey, this is the thing that you like, buy this thing. And I'm talking about Nintendo. I don't know. I kind of think that they would fall off simply because people wouldn't know what to buy. And a lot of their consumers are like, oh, it's Mario. I know Mario. I'll buy Mario. But if it's somebody else, if it's like Pablo, like who the hell's Pablo? I'm not buying that game. Up next, I have Bethesda. I think Bethesda is about a decade behind in game design. And if you didn't have the Elder Scrolls as a franchise to tease on Twitter and Reddit and stuff, no one's going to care what they put out, unfortunately. Starfield was great for people who love Bethesda, but I think anybody else who went into that attempting to be somewhat unbiased and objective with that game thought, yeah, it's a game. I'm not going to come back to it. And the last on the failure list for me is the EA Sports side of Electronic Arts. I think that if you take away the NFL licensing rights, NHL, NCAA, you take away EA's ability to have a monopoly on a certain type of game, that would be the best possible thing for gamers who like sports games, because then anybody who can make games could make a football game and nobody would have the NFL license anymore. There'd be so many great sports games, and I don't think that EA would be competitive anymore. Despite having done it for 30 years, they would suddenly realize, oh yeah, other people are better at this than us. Don't worry though, guys, because the likelihood of me getting $1 trillion is very low. And even if I did, I don't think that I would do this.